What's up, fight fans? Welcome to the UFC Fight Night 120 or hashtag UFC Norfolk post-fight show. My name is Flyin Brian J. Thank you so very much for joining me. What we're going to do is talk about the fights that just happened. In the main event of this fight card, Dustin the Diamond Poirier defeated Anthony Showtime Pettis at 2:08 of the third round. Officially TKO submission due to injury, which... that seems weird to me. I mean, Anthony Pettis absolutely, without a doubt, tapped out. That's why the fight ended. Yes, it was, he had an injury, but let's say you were a gambler and you played Dustin Poirier via submission, and then it officially goes down as a TKO, but Anthony tapped. I don't quite understand why that is. Anyway, I didn't bet on that result, so I don't actually really care. Of course, normally, guys, I would ask you down here what post-fight letter grade you would give the entire fight card. But if you missed on the pre-fight show, what I used to use as my poll maker, that website was using a coin hive, a Bitcoin data mining thing that was using too much of my computer, would use all of my available resources of my computer, and it was being slow. That's why my post-fight show last week kept pausing, so that kind of sucks. But anyway, I'm seeing a ton of you are saying this whole thing would get an A. I'm going to disagree with giving the whole card an A. I agree the main event and co-main event absolutely 100% deserve A ratings. But then if we look at the whole card, there were long stretches of a lot of nothingness. So the card as a whole, for me, cannot be an A. I'm going to give it a B, just a plain B. Dodson Moraes was pretty fun. Tatiana Suarez versus Viviane Pereira, boring. Sage Northcutt versus Michael Quinones was, not that crazy cool. One thing, we had 6 fights in a row that went to a decision, and none of those were like fight of the night worthy. Jake Robbins, B+, David Strainer, B, Donnie Smith, B+, Mikey Slack, B-. Rex Pena, oh yeah, the old rib popped out. Ouch, torn or ripped, still tap. The judges were terrible. We're going to get to some WTFs of the card soon. William Allen Cook Jr., Vincent Pratt, the big 265-pound baby with a diaper fighting the pit bull, was horrible to watch. Yeah, that fight sucked. And when you have a fight that plain and simply sucked, especially when we're talking about, well, you have to compare this week to last week, even though the level of name value on the card and all that stuff was nothing similar. But last week we had an A+++++ with UFC 217, and this just did not live up to it. Famir, what is the topic of discussion? Well, let's talk about the main event right away here. I want to address that I have now gotten 4 of my video prediction videos wrong in a row. All 3 from last week, and then I got this one wrong as well. One thing, if I can give some excuses, I got to stop picking with my heart. Like, I kind of wanted Pettis to win. So when you want somebody to win and you're doing film study, you can probably find an avenue to get him that victory. What I said was I thought that Anthony could attack Poirier's left arm with his high kicks. I didn't think Pettis had a very good game plan tonight coming in. He doesn't have that much punching power. He's not going to knock anybody out with his punches. It's mostly his kicks that would hurt people. And Pettis came out, and he didn't throw too many kicks. Maybe he was scared of Dustin taking him down. But as his corner mentioned, between round 1 and 2, Pettis was mostly looking for single shot knockout shots with his hands, and that just wasn't happening for him. Dustin was able to corral him against the fence, open up with those hooks like he does. At the end of round 1, Dustin hit a right hand on Pettis that really fucked Pettis' eye up, and Dustin just kind of unloaded on him. One thing that I was surprised about was when the fight went to the ground, Poirier got some takedowns, and pretty easily he got the takedowns. And I thought that might be the case, but I thought Pettis would be more threatening off of his back. Pettis did go for a Kimura a couple times. He was hitting triangle attempts off of his back, arm bars, and everything like that. But after Poirier fucked up Pettis' face in the first round, and Pettis was just raining blood from his face. Everything was just too slippery for Anthony to be able to pull off a submission from his back. On top of that, where other people, like Benson Henderson, kind of just hung out in Pettis' guard once you get him onto the mat and get into his guard. No, as soon as Poirier got Pettis to the ground and was in Pettis' guard, Poirier was raining down some vicious freaking ground and pound. Elbows, just general ground and pound. I don't know how to describe it much better than that. And Poirier basically had his way with Anthony Pettis. Now, there was a lot of back and forth action. There were some sweet scrambles. In the second round, Pettis hit a sweep from his back that was just dirty, gnarly. It was extremely cool. He grabbed one ankle, hooked his other ankle with his foot, and just pulled him, got on top of him for a brief moment, rained down his own ground and pound, got some decent elbows onto Poirier's face. But other than that moment there, is basically all Poirier. But because of the back and forth nature of the fight, because of the scrambles that happened, it was a main event, which adds just more hype. You're more emotional. My heart at least is pounding more for just the main event simply because it's the last fight of the night. Usually it has the highest stakes, but you sound like I'm sweating, Hard Rock Joe. I don't know. The fight was really, really fun. And it definitely got fight of the night. I predicted in the pre-fight show that Poirier vs. Pettis would get fight of the night, and it absolutely got it. In the post-fight interview, actually before we even got to the post-fight interview, Dustin was calling for the winner of Eddie Alvarez versus Justin Gaethje. He says once he wins that fight, he wants a title shot. I like it. I thought that, the stoppage with Poirier-Alvarez was kind of shitty, and I thought Poirier was going to beat Alvarez anyway. I'm going to pick Justin Gaethje to beat Alvarez, and then Poirier versus Justin Gaethje. One reason why Poirier is so exciting to watch is because he brings a whole bunch of violence into that cage. That's exactly what Justin Gaethje does as well. So, yep, good call. Dustin, I like the call out. I like the authority with which you said what you want next. That was phenomenal. And I like that next for Dustin Poirier. What's next for Anthony Showtime Pettis? I don't know. It doesn't seem... I thought he had some fire back. And he showed a lot of toughness tonight. He showed a lot of heart like he usually does. But I don't know what could possibly be next for him. He's the number 13 guy. He's probably going to fall out of the top 15 in the lightweight division, which is a little bit crazy because he's a former champion. I wouldn't be crazy offended if Anthony Pettis decided to hang it up. And if not, fuck it. Let's have him fight Francisco Massaranduba Trinaldo whenever he can come back to the octagon. Vincent Pratt. I think John Dodson got robbed? Let's talk about that. I missed a comment here. I don't know how to say that guy's name. Abhinav Gautam? Pettis almost had him on a triangle choke, but in the end, better fighter won. Great to see that both of them wanted it so desperately. It was really fun. All right, let's get to Vincent's question. So we're going to have to scoot down the card just a little bit. We're going to go to the main event of the prelims, if we can call it that. John the Magician Dodson versus Marlon Moraes. The end result was Marlon won a split decision, 30-27, 27-30, 30-27. I don't think it was a robbery. I think that 30-27 either way was complete and utter bullshit. I scored the first two rounds for John Dodson. The third round was questionable. But let's get into my WTF of the card, because Kevin Fitzpatrick is mentioning something about this. My WTF of the card, one of them is going to go to Marlon Moraes, because he hit John Dodson with a vicious groin shot early. Then he poked him in the eye. Then he headbutted him. Then between rounds 2 and 3, Marlon poured water on himself like Yoel Romero would try to do, just so he can get some extra time to rest, or perhaps make himself more slippery so that John can't take him down. And also, he grabbed John Dodson's shorts when he went for a takedown. I mean, groin shot, eye poke, headbutt, water poured on himself, grabbed his shorts. What the fuck? And it's not just a WTF to Marlon Moraes, but it could be a what the F to MMA and refereeing, rules. Like, I know if you're not breaking the rules, you're not trying, but damn. Five rule breaks, basically. Didn't even get like a real solid warning. A point should have been taken from him. And then a what the F to the judges as well, because in the first round, John Dodson dropped Marlon Moraes. The strikes landed, let's say, well, I actually have the stats up. Strikes landed for each guy were 16-16. John Dodson landed at a higher percentage, and John Dodson got a knockdown in the first round, yet 2 of the 3 judges gave it 30-27 for Marlon Moraes. So Vincent Pratt's question was, did John get robbed? Again, I don't think it was a robbery, but like not winning the first round, that is a robbery. Fun fight overall, though, back and forth. Marlon called out, I forget who he called out. Yeah, fuck, who did he call out? He says he wants to get close to a title shot. He says he's one of the best to ever do it. I think that, what did he say? Was it TJ Dillashaw? You guys help me out. You guys are my co-hosts. Who did he call out? Marlon Moraes called out somebody. He said they have history. Really wants to fight them. Could have been TJ Dillashaw. I don't know. Anyway, other candidates for WTF of the card could go to how exciting the main event was. I'm going to give a WTF of the card to Diego Sanchez. And not for any specific thing that he did, but so this was Matt Brown's retirement fight in the co-main event. And Matt Brown did retire. But Diego Sanchez did not retire. He is now on, well, he's only on a 2-fight losing streak. He defeated Marcin Held. But he said he's definitely going to stay at 170 pounds for the rest of his UFC career. Diego, brother, retire. So the result here was Matt Brown knocked out Diego Sanchez with a downward elbow from standing after catching a kick, which, here's a WTF of the card. The FS1 broadcast went all like batshit crazy at the exact moment Matt Brown finished Diego Sanchez. Like, they showed us where the press conference was going to be taking place. That was kind of a WTF, but at 3:44 of the first round, Matt knocked out Diego Sanchez, knocked him out clean, cold. And then Matt, of course, thanked the veterans. It's Veterans Day, and all that jazz. So props to Matt Brown. He definitely gets a performance bonus for that. And Diego Sanchez, what's next for him, needs to fucking retire. Moving on down. Andre Pitbull Arlovski defeated Junior Albini 29-28, 30-27, 30-27 after Arlovski had gone on a 5-fight losing streak, which he gives me some hope. I've had 4 wrong video predictions in a row now, and that's weighing hard on my conscience. But Arlovski came back from that, and he gets a pretty big victory over Junior Albini. WTF of the card again. We got a bunch of them, I guess. Junior Albini basically wore a diaper, a Reebok-branded diaper, to the octagon and in the cage. There's been a ton of comments. My thing just wasn't loading. Sorry, guys. Matthew Caldwell, Diego, man. Dude, straight got clowned by that elbow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks, guys. Marlon Moraes called out Jimmy Rivera. I tweeted it. I need to just pull up my tweets. Let me pull up my tweets. Oh, guys, if you haven't already, check out my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. I posted all of the pictures that I snagged up from tonight. I was screenshotting the fights, and I put them all on my Facebook page, all of the finishes, all of the results and stuff. Matthew Caldwell says Andre looked great, but that baby guy just straight terrible looking in there. Junior Albini against Timothy Johnson in his UFC debut. He looked like he was surprisingly extremely fast for how heavy that dude looks. Tonight, he looked slow. He looked tired. And even though Arlovski got that victory, I'm not impressed with either guy. And that was it really truly was a low light of the card. I don't think we could call it anything other than that. Chad Cheeseman wants us to talk about Clay Guida. All right, buddy. Let's skip down. Joe J-Lo Lozon versus Clay the Carpenter Guida. Amazing. At 107 of the very first round, people predicting this fight going into it thought either Joe Lozon via early stoppage or Clay Guida via decision, basically. Nope, Clay comes out. He's doing the Clay Guida thing. He does a two-hook combination. The right hook lands behind Joe Lozon's ear, so it would have been on his left side. Hurts Joe, gets his eyes all loopy about him, and then Clay hits him with a right uppercut that just, basically that was the end right there, was when Clay landed that uppercut. Knocked Joe down, hit him with about 10 seconds worth of ground and pound. Paul Felder, which I haven't mentioned already, was our main announcer tonight alongside John Anik. He thought that fight could have been stopped sooner, but Clay Guida looked absolutely fantastic. And then in the post-fight interview, Clay revealed to us, as Chad Cheeseman says, that was the last fight on his UFC contract, and he wants to spend, he wants to be in the UFC for the rest of his MMA career. And so that fucking great gamble on yourself, Clay, to wait your contract out so you can negotiate for more money. Amazing to capitalize on that basically negotiation fight by finishing Joe Lozon in 1:07. I absolutely think he gets a new contract with the UFC. I think he'll probably get a pay raise a little bit. And since moving back to lightweight, that is two incredibly impressive performances in a row for the Carpenter. In his post-fight interview, he said Joe Lozon is a great person. He's always looked up to him. He thanked the crowd for being there for him. He thanked the veterans. He got the crowd to chant his name as he was saying that he wanted a new contract with the UFC, and that whole bit was just phenomenal. Check out MMA Mania's Instagram page. You see a picture of Clay in his post-fight interview. It was awesome. So, Chad, to answer, why are my comments not loading? That guy's got to get banned, right? Man, we got this shit going on again. I gotta ban a whole bunch of people. Hold on, guys. Gotta ban some folks. Ban. Okay, gotta ban this guy. Hide comment. And report. We're gonna report that. Yep. We're gonna report that. We're gonna report this guy. Bap. We're also gonna ban him. Yes. Sorry, guys. I had to ban some folks there quickly. That's some stupid shit. Am I frozen? No, it's just I wasn't moving for a sec. Okay. Alright, let me make sure I got all the ban hammers I needed to do. Sorry about that, my friends. Clay Guida, yeah, he's going to get a new contract. He's going to probably get a 5-fight contract. He's going to get a pay raise. Incredible performance by him. He's definitely getting the other performance bonus in my mind. So I would go fight of the night, Poirier Pettis. Performance bonus to Matt Brown. Performance bonus to Clay Guida. And as Betty Oliveira is mentioning, she wants to talk about Rafael Assunção. She says it's her son. I don't know about that being your son and all, but whatever, Betty. Rafael Assunção looked amazing against Matthew Lopez. He was really getting the better of Lopez with the low kicks. They call it the calf kick, but just below the knee, attacking that part of his leg. Assunção was limiting Lopez's mobility, which allowed him to get the knockout punch that he landed on Matthew Lopez. I believe it was a right hand, but it was also to the right side of Assunção's face, so that was funny. He went in for a flying knee, Assunção did, on Matt Lopez. Lopez ducked down, and as Assunção turned away, he punched the right side of Lopez's face with his right hand, dropped him, out cold. Incredible, impressive performance from Rafael Assunção. He called out TJ Dillashaw. He said he wants to complete the trilogy with him. And as much as I want Matthew Caldwell, those kicks were so nasty. That guy's leg looked like hamburger meat. Yeah, I tried to get a screen grab of that as well. It was the inside of his right leg, so yeah, it was looking fucking terrible. And during the broadcast, Paul Felder mentioned that Lopez is going to have to take baby aspirin so that he doesn't get blood clots in his leg. I'd never thought about that before, but Lopez probably isn't going to be able to get on a plane for a while. Jody Corville asks, who do I think the Diamond will fight next? I do believe he will fight the winner of Eddie Alvarez versus Justin to highlight Gaethje. Asuncao versus TJ Dillashaw. Let's address this for a second, because I don't think that Asuncao is going to get it, and that kind of sucks for him. But man, what I want next for TJ Dillashaw is Demetrius Johnson, and if that cannot happen, I want the rematch with Dominic Cruz. And if that can't happen, then I guess we give him Asuncao. But what I want for TJ Dillashaw is Demetrius Johnson, Dominic Cruz, the winner of Jimmy Rivera versus Aljamain. No, wait. Is that booked? I don't know, guys. And then another fight with Cody Nolov Garbrandt. All right, I'll trust you, Betty. Okay. Nate Marquardt versus Cesar Ferreira. Not too much we need to talk about there. I think Cesar won the first round by out-voluming Nate Marquardt. Nate didn't do a whole lot in the first round. Second round was more of the same, except for at the very end of the second round, Nate dropped Cesar. Third round, it was really like Cesar got a couple of takedowns, and he landed 40 more strikes than Nate in that third round. Not too crazy impressive of a fight, but both guys seemed to hurt each other at times, and then in the first round, and then after that, they were both really hesitant to really engage. DJ don't want no part of the TJ. He wants to stay in his little bubble of the 125-pound division. How about Asuncao versus Garbrandt? Boom. Love it. Great fight. Abhinav Gautam. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Call your mom out. Is that a troll? I'll give that guy one more second. I'm dropping the ban hammer tonight. I don't know what the fuck's going on. So I'll give that guy a little more time. Another chance before I ban him. Dale Starkey. Asuncao versus Garbrandt, winner gets TJ. Love it. Keep that shit going. I like that a lot. Let's talk about Tatiana Suarez versus Viviane Pereira. Not a lot to say about it. Basically, well, out of the 15-minute fight, Tatiana Suarez controlled the fight on the ground for 12 and a half minutes. So, like, the entire fight. Basically, Tatiana dominated her on the ground. She didn't go for much ground and pound. Paul Felder was like saying, hey, let's do some ground and pound. You could open her up for a submission, but basically she didn't do that. Perhaps it could be some octagon jitters. She hadn't fought in a long time. Perhaps it could be just youth, lack of experience there. But utter dominance. What was the final? Tatiana Suarez, 30-27, 30-27, 30-26. Probably should have been 30-27 across the board. What's next? Not too much to talk about there. Tatiana, I think I'm excited to watch her next fight, just because she does have a clear path to victory in any matchup she were to be put in, and I like her comeback from cancer story. That's fun there. But like Robbie Podobinski says, the fight wasn't great. I'm going to say that. Donnie Smith asks, what's next for Angela Overkill Hill? She dropped a decision to Nina Ansaroff. I basically think that Angela Hill is going to be in this spot forever. I don't know. She's getting better at times, but for every 2 steps forward, she takes 2 steps back again. What I mean, where she's at, she's either going to be top of Invicta, top of like UFC feeder league, or like gatekeeper to the UFC. Her skill set is limited. She doesn't have a ground game. She doesn't do anything really crazy. She's a good striker, but as we saw tonight against Nina Ansaroff, you put her against a striker of her caliber, and she she doesn't have enough pop to scare anybody off. She doesn't have enough movement to compete with, even somebody like Nina Ansaroff. And what's next for her? I don't know. I honestly wouldn't mind if she just gets in this role of fighting debutantes for a minute. And if not, if she can't succeed with that, then maybe go back to the Invicta. Rex Pena, is this a podcast or just Facebook Live? After I'm done recording, thank you for asking me. After I'm done recording on Facebook Live, I download the video, I upload it to YouTube, and I also turn it into a podcast. So you can subscribe to MMA Mania's podcast feed, and you can listen to everything, on your way to work or whatever. Tyler Crawford, do I fight? No. I'm ugly enough, man. I don't need to get punched in the face. I do go to jiu-jitsu classes when I'm not swamped with videos, but I've talked about it a lot. I'm required to make one video prediction for every UFC main event. I'm required to make a beer pairing suggestion. I'm required to do a pre-fight show and a post-fight show. And if there's 2 title fights on one card, I have to do 2 videos for prediction videos. So I'm pretty busy with that. Also, I've got a fiance. I've got a real job, my day job, so it's hard for me to get to those jiu-jitsu classes. But as often as I can, I try to make it to jiu-jitsu classes. Matthew Caldwell asks, do I think at this point Silva just completely ruining his legacy with getting popped every fight and fighting like a mediocre shell of his former self? Matthew, Anderson Silva is my favorite fighter of all time. I make no bones about it. I'm sad at him for testing positive. People like to ask me what I think is next for Anderson Silva and whatever. I've been asking for Anderson Silva to retire since he defeated Stephan Bonner, back in 2013 or something, 2014, whatever the fuck that was. The reason being that he got his 16th consecutive win in the UFC. He had defended the belt 10 times. Just leave, dude. He was already 38 years old, and you could see that he was losing a step. And I wanted him to be the guy that rode off into the sunset on top. And that's not happening. So I want him to retire. I'm honestly, I'm glad that he tested positive for whatever he tested positive for. I'm glad he was flagged by USADA for a potential doping violation, so that he didn't get smashed by Kelvin Gastelum, because he probably would have. And I don't like seeing him lose. It makes my heart hurt a little bit. Tyler, why am I required to make those videos? This is like my part-time job, dude, because it's in my contract. Yeah. Anywho, let's talk. What's next for Angela Hill? I don't have a good answer for that. Yeah, either gatekeeper to the UFC or go back to Invicta. She's now 2-4 in the UFC since 2014. She's fun to follow on Twitter. I'll give you that. Let's keep moving down the fight card, though. Super Sage Northcutt put on a really, really impressive performance against Michael Quinones. Basically, Sage was the larger man. He was the more conditioned fighter. He was the stronger guy. He had the better uses of distance. He had the more dynamic striking game. And Michael Quinones, or Michel, whatever his name is exactly, didn't do anything other than strike with Sage. He didn't even land very hard punches on Sage, and Sage got a takedown at the end of every round. So total strikes landed in the second round were 24-25, but then Sage, whenever he decided he wanted to, got a fucking takedown. I think that Sage training with Team Alpha Male and Uriah Faber could be doing him a lot of good. He seemed to have a swagger about him tonight. Maybe not swagger, but he seemed, like Donnie Smith says, fast as hell. He seemed aggressive and angry, like he had a little bit of a mean streak to him tonight, and that was impressive. Matthew, speaking of Gastelum, do I think Bisping bounces back and wins or loses on short notice after being beat by GSP? I will be picking Gastelum, Matthew. The speed advantage for Gastelum should be huge, and I think that after being concussed from that left hook from GSP in the third round before getting choked out, I think that he's coming back too soon. That fight is in 2 weeks, right? that's too soon. So 3 weeks after getting concussed by George St. Pierre, you want to fight a guy that is like literally 11 years younger than you, has a dynamic speed advantage, also has a wrestling card in his back pocket. I don't like it for Bisping. But I'm not a Bisping fan, so I don't really care. Another WTF to the card, which we could have got to earlier. Court McGee versus Sean Strickland. Originally in the Octagon, they announced it as a majority draw. One judge gave it to Strickland, 30-27, I believe. And then they said that the other two judges gave it 29-29. But that was false. Two people couldn't add or fucking something. Because the actual result was 30-27, 29-28, 29-28 in favor of Sean Strickland. First round, I believe, I gave the first round to Court McGee. Maybe that wasn't the first round. I know I gave a round to Court McGee, but he was doing way better on the feet than I thought he would. Sean Strickland was doing really good with his jab, and Paul Felder was saying Strickland should throw something after the jab, use that jab to set something up, but he just jabs. He got a takedown in the first and third rounds. He got 2 in the third round. And I thought he did enough to win the fight. But Court McGee, as a huge underdog, plus 235, not huge, but plus 235 underdog for Court McGee, he looked really good in there. And honestly, the rounds were so close that I was like, fuck it. It was a draw. I don't care. That seemed fine to me. We just go with that. Abhinav Gautam says, it's an emotional call from Bisping. Yeah, I don't know why he's doing that. Just to avoid Yoel Romero? I don't know. He should have taken a more winnable fight. Maybe it is winnable. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but yeah. He just emotional, like you said, Abhinav. And just taking the fight too soon. Jake Collier versus Marcel Fortuna. Jake Collier won a unanimous decision. 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. Fortuna came in as a 2-1 favorite, and Collier basically looked like he was the way better fighter. He was more dynamic on the feet. He was the larger man in the octagon, which was interesting because Collier came up to light heavyweight from middleweight. Fortuna made his UFC debut at heavyweight, even though he's supposed to be a light heavyweight. But Jake Collier was the larger man. He had the more dynamic strikes. He had the better jab. He had the better cardio. He seemed to have he had the more dynamic striking attack because he threw a shitload of spinning techniques. He threw a spinning back kick to Fortuna's body a few times that landed with ease, it seemed. But Collier had the presence. When they get in the octagon, one guy seems kind of skittish and is trying to run away from the fight. One guy's just kind of walking it down. Collier didn't seem to respect Fortuna's power, and Fortuna would land something and Collier would just shake his head and keep walking forward. Or he acknowledged once that Fortuna hit him with a spinning technique. But really, that fight was all Jake Collier. Eric Haber says, the problem with Bisping is he's a gangster. What I don't get is, isn't there somebody, the UFC, Dana White, Bisping's corner, anybody that's saying dude, this is not a good idea. You just got concussed by GSP last weekend, and now you're going to fight in 2 weeks? Somebody, Chris Tuttle, he won the belt on, this is Chris Tuttle saying this, he won the belt on pretty short notice. Maybe he wants to repeat that performance, I guess, but certainly, all right, Dale, you're done. Bop, ban. Yeah, Mike. Certainly somebody in Mike's corner that's got to think that's a bad idea. And the first fight of the night, Darren Stewart versus Carl Roberson, whatever. Roberson got the submission, rear naked choke in the very first round. Stewart started the round with a couple of spinning attempts that were unsuccessful. They got in the clinch. Stewart tried to go for a takedown, but Roberson reversed it by throwing double overhooks. two whizzers and this fucking flinging him to the canvas. Roberson took his back shortly thereafter, attempted the rear naked choke. Stewart got out of it briefly, but then like right after that, Roberson locked it in and got that submission. In the post-fight interview, Roberson said he feels like it felt, like he's meant to be here and he's ready for like high-level competition. Good performance by him. Maybe Romero should have filled in for Anderson Silva. Good point, Abignov Gudum. Also, I really wanted Bisping to fight Yoel, and I thought that him losing the belt, Bisping losing the belt, and Yoel losing to Robert Whittaker for the interim belt was perfect for Yoel to finally fight Michael Bisping. I mean, they have film of them like talking shit to each other at an event, like, see you soon, boy. That whole shit, that they could sell a fight. I don't know why Michael wouldn't, be gunning for that or something. Anyway, let me refresh my page and see what the actual performance bonuses ended up being. Maybe they're not even announced yet. That'd be fucking weird. I'm certain I got them right. Main event, fight of the night. Sorry, I'm pausing here. Fight of the night, Poirier Pettis. Performance bonuses go to Brown and a Sunsao. Isn't that what I said? No, I fucking gave a performance bonus to Clay Guida. So for the Flyin Brian post-fight show, we're giving an extra $50,000 imaginary dollars to Clay Guida. For fuck's sake, because that was awesome. Sure, Sun's House was pretty cool, but I thought Clay Guida's was better, so we're giving it to him. I don't think GSP beats Whittaker, though. GSP didn't really look too great versus Bisping. I agree, Matthew. I'm definitely picking Whittaker to beat GSP if that fight happens. Chris Tuttle, I know it's kind of off topic, but what do you think of Aldo replacing Edgar to fight Holloway? I think it's stupid. I don't care to see it. I mean, we just saw that. Right? So we're getting back-to-back fights. The only time I ever want to see a fight happen back-to-back is if something weird happens. But it wasn't weird. Max Holloway just put the smackdown on Jose Aldo. TKO in the third round. I don't see it going much differently than the first time, other than I think that Max Holloway will beat him quicker because Max is one of those guys that kind of downloads what his opponent's bringing at him, then he'll turn up the volume, turn up the pace, and put them to pasture, basically. He's already fought Jose Aldo, so this is going to be basically going to a fourth round, and he's already got him figured out. I don't like it. But the only, if you had to look at the rankings, the next fighter down that was coming off of a victory in the featherweight division was, I believe, Darren Elkins. And Darren Elkins doesn't deserve a title shot, and I don't like that matchup either. A lot of people say Cub Swanson, like Donnie Smith. Deck Thalion. Swanson deserved it. Chris Tuttle, yes, put Cub Swanson in there. Great fight. Eric Haber says that Aldo won the first 2 rounds and was injured. That's another thing. Aldo has a history of pulling out of fights with injuries. What if he might not even be able to make it to this fight? I would love, Abignov, I would love to watch Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor at 155 pounds. But, there are so many fun matchups for Conor McGregor. And I was thinking about this the other day. Conor McGregor hasn't competed in the octagon for over a year. No, actually, it was a year ago today that he beat Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205. Well, a year ago Sunday, tomorrow, whatever you want to call it. The most popular fighter in the world hasn't competed in the octagon in over a year. That's not great. I'd like to see him back, and I really want him to defend his belt against Tony Ferguson. Kelvin looked pretty bad against Weidman. Chad Cheeseman says that. Well, he looked bad against Weidman a little bit because Weidman big brothered him with his wrestling attack and Kelvin was struggling to close the distance. Weidman tired out Kelvin with grappling. Bisping's not going to grapple Kelvin. If anybody initiates the grappling, it's going to be Kelvin on Bisping. And then people's buttons are easier to push to knock them out when they're coming off of a knockout loss. But I know Bisping officially lost via submission, but he got dropped pretty bad, so he was obviously concussed. And I hope that they went through the proper channels to get him cleared with the doctors and everything. Did we even mention in the main event that Pettis tapped out because of a rib injury? Yeah, I think we did. Chris Tuttle says, should be interesting if it stays in the feet, but I think if Tony takes things to the ground, it might be a short fight for Conor. Also, if you got to think if Tony Ferguson cannot get the fight to the ground, that's a short fight for Conor as well, because Ferguson does not have very good striking defense. He has his hands at his hips and stuff. You want to get your hands at your hips against the biggest puncher south of 170 pounds? It's not good. Very, very fun fight because got a clear path to victory for either man, like you said, Chris. Submission, grappling for Tony. If it stays on the feet, for Conor. So, fun either way. Stanley Honeycutt, I just got out of the hospital. Did Swanson fight? I had half a lung removed, so I've been out. So who's been fighting? Swanson didn't fight. The main event tonight was Dustin Poirier. He finished Anthony Pettis in the third round via injury, so it was a TKO. Something happened with Pettis' rib, and he tapped out. And it was basically a mauling by Poirier. But it was a really fun back-and-forth mauling with a lot of ebbs, a lot of flows, all that jazz. I think I'll probably get out of here, guys. I think I'm going to call the show a day. Call it a day. Please like my Facebook page. We can talk more about Conor versus everybody. We can also talk about Gaethje Alvarez, Avignov. But I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching and hanging out with me. Again, like my Facebook page. It's at Flyin Brian Show. Subscribe to MMA Mania on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. And I'll see you guys this coming week. Thanks again for hanging out. Namaste. I do appreciate you for hanging out. It means a lot to me. I know I talked a lot really fast at the beginning of the show, but it's late, and I kind of wanted to rush through the show. Then I realized that rushing through the show made me sound worse than just doing the show straight up, so tried to calm down there a bit. But yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. These fucking FS1 fight cards getting over too late are a real pain in my ass. Later, fight fans. Namaste. 2 namastes, one episode. Love it.